Hey everyone, welcome back to Crime Weekly News. I'm Derek Levasseur.
And I'm Stephanie Harlow.
And tonight we're going to unpack the devastating South Carolina tragedy. 16-year-old Trey Wright was lured to his death in a remote rural road after a romantic dispute. His girlfriend allegedly orchestrated the setup, and the ambush was brutally captured on video. With 10 teens now being charged under South Carolina's hand of one is the hand of all law, this case isn't just shocking. It challenges everything we thought we knew about teenage violence and accountability. And we were talking about it briefly before we started recording. This hand of one is the hand of all law. I think this should be something that's incorporated in every state. I really like it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're kids, so this makes it more difficult, right? Kids are pack animals.
Yep.
At their heart. They follow. But when it's something like this, and you have to wonder, this is such a new case. It's a devastating case. I'm glad we're talking about it. I've been kind of following it. But you have to wonder, did those kids know what was going to happen when they went there that night? Did they think it was going to be a fist fight? Like it appears Trey believed it was going to be a fist fight. Or did they know that this assailant, which was another teenage kid, that he had a gun and he was planning to shoot Trey? Okay, so basically, Trey Wright, he's 16 years old, and he was just a few weeks away from his sophomore year of high school at Johnsonville High, where he played football. Now, at the time, he was living with a family friend, 31-year-old Alicia Lauterbach. He was staying in her Johnsonville mobile home along with herself and her 4 kids, and it appears that his mother, Ashley, had lived in Johnsonville previously, but then she had moved out of town to an even more rural area of Florence County, and Trey wanted to stay in Johnsonville so he could keep going to that high school where he had friends and play football there. Alicia said he was at football practice all summer. It was really important to him. He was a good kid, just kind of focused on keeping consistency in his life. Now, I guess he met this girl, Gianna Kistenmacher, 17 years old. They'd only been dating for a few weeks. Now, where Trey lived in Johnsonville, which is kind of a rural area, Gianna was from Surfside Beach, which is an area right outside of Myrtle Beach. The homes sell for upwards of millions of dollars. She lived in a gated community. And Alicia, who's Trey's family friend, and her daughter Jasmine, they said that Trey had told them he felt he wasn't good enough for Gianna, even though he genuinely had feelings for her. And they felt he had, he really loved her and cared about her. And Jasmine, which is Alicia's daughter, she said, quote, "He wasn't the real fighter type. He wouldn't have put himself out there like that if he didn't care about that girl. There's no way he thought something like this would happen," end quote. All right, so we've got Trey and we got Gianna, his girlfriend of only a few weeks, but he's really into her. Now we have Devan Raper, who's 19 years old, also from Myrtle Beach, like Gianna. And it appears that Gianna and Devan were dating or seeing each other. And then, according to Alicia and Jasmine, Devan maybe got a little tired of Gianna and he introduced her to Trey. And then Trey and Gianna started dating. And then Devan got jealous and was like, no, I'm going to kind of come back into Gianna's life. So at some point, Gianna's dating Trey. Also, Devan's back, and it kind of seemed like she was stringing them both along at the same time. Now, Alicia, remember, the 31-year-old woman that Trey lives with, she said her impression was that Gianna came to see Trey in Johnsonville on the down low at night and on weekdays for booty calls, and then she would see Devan Raper, when they were together in Myrtle Beach. So she was kind of having both of these relationships at once. And Alicia said she believes the shooting was fueled by jealousy and bravado. So here's what happened. It's June 24th, 2025, 11:30 p.m. Florence County Sheriff's Office deputies responded to a call about a shooting on First Neck Road. This is Johnsonville, South Carolina, 50 miles northwest of Myrtle Beach. They found Trey Wright laying in the road with multiple gunshot wounds, and he was rushed to a local hospital where he was pronounced dead. On that night, apparently, Alicia and Jasmine, they also heard the shots, so this must have been pretty close to where Trey lived. And they rushed out to the street, and they found him still alive, I guess. So this is very sad. Alicia and her husband, Jerry, they were asleep. They jumped out of their bed to see what happened. Alicia said, quote, I saw Trey laying in the road. He was gasping, trying to talk. He was still alive when we got to him. We were all praying he'd make it. We did everything we could, but he didn't. His last words to us were, "I'm going to sleep now." End quote. Alicia's husband, Jerry, tried to perform CPR. There was nothing that could be done. Trey was bleeding from 2 shots to his left chest area, and blood was also coming out of his arm. And both Alicia and her daughter Jasmine said that Gianna was there. Trey's girlfriend Gianna was there. She appeared to be as shocked by what had happened to Trey as they were. And she even went to the hospital with them to check on him. And Jasmine, I believe it was, she said, quote, "She fooled us all. She seemed more public with Trey, but then you realize she was stringing both along. In my heart, I feel like she set it up and she has to live with that," end quote. So then all of a sudden law enforcement starts making arrests, right? They arrest Gianna. They charged her with accessory before the fact of a felony. She has been accused of luring Trey to a desolate section of First Net Road, knowing that Devan Raper was waiting and knowing that he was armed and knowing there would be a confrontation for violence likely to lead to death based on statements made in her presence. This is all that law enforcement will say at this point. Then they started arresting other people. So on August 3rd, 3 other teens were arrested and charged in connection with that fatal shooting, also charged with murder. And then 4 other suspects have been arrested, but their names haven't been released because they are minors. But the 3 people who have been, put out there are Hunter Kendall, 18 of Myrtle Beach, Corinne Belvicio, 18 of Myrtle Beach, and Sydney Cairns, 17 of Myrtle Beach. The Florence County Sheriff's Office said, quote, "They are complicit in bringing the armed co-defendant Raper to the incident location and knowing that there would be a confrontation. They knew that Raper had presented a firearm to the victim and made threats to shoot him, according to the arrest warrants," end quote. One of the teens who was present at the scene also allegedly filmed the shooting, and it looks like there have been maybe clips of that floating around on Snapchat.
I'm sure law enforcement has the whole thing.
And then Devan Raper was also arrested, obviously, on June 24th, and in the following weeks, all of these other teenagers were arrested, and a 10th suspect is also expected to turn themselves in. So there's a lot of people involved in this, a lot of complicated dynamics. Apparently, I think it was a few days before this happened, Devan Raper had presented a gun to Trey Wright and kind of waved a gun at him and said, I'm going to kill you. But as far as Alicia and her daughter Jasmine, who Trey lived with, as far as they believe, they did not think that Trey knew Devan was going to be armed when he went to this area, this desolate location, First Neck Road. He thought it was just going to be one of, an old-fashioned fist fight. All right, let's settle this love triangle here and now. Let the best man win kind of thing. He did not expect that he was going to get shot. I don't know. It's a really tough one. He was 16 years old.
Yeah, no, and now a bunch of lives are ruined.
Yeah, ruined, yeah.
Yeah, just stupid. And now you have a bunch of lives that are forever changed. And I first want to talk about the crime, and then we can transition to the hand of one is the hand of all statute and how it's going to apply here and how it could potentially apply in other cases across the country. So before we get into the crime itself, let's take our first break.
This episode of Crime Weekly News is brought to you by Wild Grain. And if you've never tried them, fall is the perfect time to start. Wild Grain is the first ever bake from frozen subscription box for artisanal sourdough breads, seasonal pastries, and fresh pastas. Everything goes from freezer to the table in 25 minutes or less, which for me is a lifesaver when I want something homemade but I don't have the time or honestly the patience. And unlike store-bought breads, Wild Grain uses a slow fermentation process that makes everything easier on your stomach, richer in nutrients, and packed with that deep bakery fresh flavor. And here's my favorite part. They've got seasonal fall goodies. So I got my Wild Grain box about 4 days ago, and they've sent me stuff before, but never like this. This was like the best unboxing in the world because they had the normal stuff in there, like the sourdough bread, the croissants, the pastas, but then I pulled out apple cider donuts. And I was like, can I eat these right now? No, you had to bake them and it was midnight, so I didn't. And then I pulled out pumpkin cinnamon biscuits. And everything from Wild Grain is warm, soft, and so fresh. It tastes like it comes straight out of a bakery. Additionally, Wild Grain boxes are customizable. They've expanded to include a gluten-free box and a plant-based box. So there really is something for everyone. And it's funny because I was talking to Derek before we started reading this ad and I was like, oh my God, these cinnamon pumpkin biscuits. He's like, what cinnamon pumpkin?
Yeah, I didn't get it yet. I hope my box is on the way.
Yeah, it really is like being a kid, but you're an adult who loves carbs, and then you get this box and you're like, where do I start? Like, I wanted to just like, Scrooge McDuck is like swimming in his like vault of money. I wanted to swim in my box of carbs. I'm so excited. I love Wild Grain. They're so good. You guys have to check them out. Derek's going to tell you how.
That's right. This fall, treat yourself and your loved ones to warm sourdough breads and seasonal baked goods from Wild Grain. And as Stephanie just said, the rumor out there is that they have these apple cider donuts and pumpkin cinnamon biscuits that are apparently amazing. So get them this season before they sell out. And for a limited time, Wild Grain is offering our listeners and viewers $30 off your first box plus free croissants in every box when you go to wildgrain.com/crimeweekly to start your subscription. And yes, you heard me right. Free croissants in every box and $30 off your first box when you go to wildgrain.com/crimeweekly. That's wildgrain.com/crimeweekly, or you can use promo code crimeweekly at checkout. Don't miss their seasonal products like apparently I have. All right, we're back, and candidly, this is the first time I'm hearing about this case. So as you're telling us the story, it's the first time I'm hearing it as well. And it sounds pretty straightforward as far as the immediate crime, right? As you just described, if everything's on the up and up, Gianna is dating both of them, right? Whatever the dynamics behind it.
Sleeping with both of them, dating both of them, talking to them. I don't know. I don't think kids these days date. I think
they're hooking up. She's hooking up with both of them.
They're hooking up.
And it looks like somehow or another, Devan found out, or Devan was maybe more back with her than Trey, and Trey was kind of the side piece, I guess, because ultimately Gianna says, hey, Devan, or however it happens, Gianna essentially gets Trey to come out of the house and sets him up for Devan.
Here's what I think happened based on the information, because I've kind of been following all the new updates. There's just not enough information yet. I wish there was more. Gianna was dating Devan. Devan was kind of like over her, I guess. He introduced her to Trey, hoping she would like be interested in Trey. And then what I think happened is Gianna started dating Trey in order to make Devan jealous, not really being interested in Trey, but trying to make Devan jealous. And then when that did actually happen, she had gotten what she wanted. But would that be enough to set somebody up to die, is my question.
Well, obviously the answer is no. Nothing that you've described here tonight would warrant killing someone. But stuff like this does happen. I'm not saying it's okay, but this teenage stuff, we all go through it. We're dumb. Our frontal lobes aren't completely developed, and we just make bad decision after bad decision. And in many instances, you learn from those things and become a better person. But unfortunately, sometimes there's no coming back from the mistakes you make, drunk driving, etc., things like that. Sometimes they impact your life and the lives of others for eternity. So with this, it sounds about right what you're saying. I'm sure Gianna is going to have a different version of it, but with the charging of all these people, what I'm assuming as I'm sitting here is they've searched all of their phones, all of their internet activity. They've got Snapchat records, they've got DMs, they've got whatever they have, and they've been able to put together a picture. And I'm assuming, especially in today's day and age, when everybody text messages over, talks on the phone or in person, there's probably a lot of correspondence between Devan and Gianna. And if Devan has brandished this gun before, whether it's to Trey or other people, or told Gianna about it, or said he was going to bring the gun.
Well, there was videos. There was videos of Devan waving the gun at Trey that circulated on Snapchat a few days before the actual shooting. So that there is definitely evidence of that, yes.
So we already know that he's done it. Yeah. So any reasonable person would know that Devan is capable of this. You can't claim ignorance, Gianna or the other people that showed up. So,
and the cops did say she had prior knowledge that he would be there, that he would be armed, and that an altercation resulting in death would occur. So the police must know something.
Of course they do. And more than likely, Gianna showed up with Devan, right? Like, so they probably came together.
No. Devan came with those other teens. They drove him over there, the other ones that got arrested. Gianna drove to Trey's house and had him follow her to the place where he was going to be ambushed.
Oh, yeah, man. She's in trouble. And so aren't these other kids.
I mean, she's going to say, I didn't know. She's going to say, I didn't know Devan was armed, or I knew he was armed, but he always is, but I didn't know he would actually shoot him.
I
but
think
the
she's got
police
problems.
clearly have something that shows she did know that there was the potential that there would be shots fired.
I would argue, and guys, please in the comments weigh in down below, but I would argue the fact that I'm assuming she was at this previous incident or saw the video of
Yes,
Devan waving a
one
gun
or the
before.
other, I would
So
assume.
whether he specifically said, I'm bringing a gun tonight, any reasonable person would see right there in black and white, or color, I should say in this case, that this guy's capable of this and he could do it again. So
What if he said to her, I'm bringing a gun, but don't worry, I won't shoot him? Could she still be in the same kind of trouble? I don't know.
of course,
I'm asking you. She
of
could?
course,
Yeah.
100%. That's the risk you run. It's like being in an armed robbery where you're the driver. You know that the other guy has a gun and he's going to bring it in there and threaten him. You don't know what he's going to actually do. But if he shoots the person behind the counter, you could be charged with murder as well. They don't have to say outright, I'm going to shoot this clerk when I go in there. You being there, you being an accessory, you being an accomplice, which that's the key word here, an accomplice, because it ties directly to the South Carolina law. Basically, this hand of one is a hand of all is kind of like the accomplice rule, where you're guilty by association, you're guilty by participating in the overall crime. So yeah, I think Gianna's in a lot of trouble. Now these other kids, the fact that they were charged as well, this is a big thing for South Carolina, because it's not only going to set a precedent for that state, but it could set a precedent for other states as well that implement similar case law. Because if it goes up to the Supreme Court, this could be something that is used in cases throughout the country. So my thing here is they definitely have electronic transmissions to tie Gianna to knowing that this was a setup. And based on what you just told me, these other kids that were rolling in with Devan, they also knew that at minimum there was going to be an altercation. This wasn't to hash things out. They set this kid up to come out, and at minimum there was going to be a fight. Now, if during that fight, let's say Devan didn't have a gun, right? Let's just say they fought and Devan beats Trey to the point where he cracks his head off the concrete. You've heard me talk about this before. When you engage in a crime, if it results in death, you can still be charged. That's the risk you run. And if all these kids knew that at minimum was going to happen, you could be charged as well. Now, do we want to talk about the law itself? I think we talked about the crime.
Yeah, I do want to talk about the law itself because I'm interested in it. I've actually never heard of it, but I have a question.
Yeah.
Now, Devan, he's 19 years old.
Yep.
He's got a gun. In my opinion, this is either an illegal gun, an illegal handgun that he somehow got, right? Or it's like a shotgun. I mean, let's be honest, this is South Carolina. They're more gun friendly than other states. I cannot find anywhere whether it says it was like a shotgun or a handgun. But if it was a handgun, it's unlikely that even in South Carolina, a 19-year-old would be able to have access to that and be carrying it around. Am I wrong or am I right?
Well, first, to your first point, my understanding, you have to be 21.
That's what I thought.
To purchase a handgun. You can buy a rifle at 18, which...
Yeah, it's a hunting thing.
That's a completely stupid law, by the way. I mean, you can go out at 18 and buy an AR-15, but you can't buy a pistol.
So I just looked it up. South Carolina is a constitutional carry state, meaning that individuals 18 or older who can legally own a firearm can not only own it, but can carry it openly or concealed without a permit.
But is that for a handgun, though?
It just says a firearm.
I know we got South Carolina people in here weighing down in the comments. Let us know. But
this is as of March 2024, so fairly new. And it says carry a handgun. Yes, it says constitutional carry as of March 2024. South Carolina does not require a permit or training to carry a handgun either openly or concealed.
Okay, so he was legally in possession of the gun. That's fine.
As far as we know. We don't know if it's in his name. Could be his parents.
Can correct us. Yeah. You guys can correct us. He was legally in possession of the gun. That's fine. But obviously he's using it during the commission of a crime.
That's crazy.
This is not a fight. This is not a fist fight. You're bringing the gun. There's intentionality behind that. Even if it's just to point it in his face, that's assault. That in and of itself, that previous video you talked about, that is a crime. So he's using this firearm in the commission of a crime. So at minimum, all these people there, even if it was just to brandish the firearm and threaten Trey, they're witness and you could argue accomplices to an assault. And that's a problem. Now, the fact that it went south, we could talk about a possible defense here. Let's say Devan went there just to scare Trey like the last time, right? He was going to have him show up. He was going to pull out the gun, point it in his face, tell him to stop talking to Gianna, and they were going to go their separate ways. What if the defense here is that, and I have no knowledge of this, again, first time hearing about it, but what if the defense is going to be, yeah, Devan pulled out the gun, he put it in Trey's face, but this time, instead of Trey just kind of backing down and not really engaging because it's a gun versus fist, you're not going to win, Trey, feeling threatened, defended himself or attacked Devan because Trey's like, oh God, he has a gun again, he could shoot me, so he rushes Devan. And during the altercation, that's when Devan shoots Trey. Is it justified? I don't think so.
No, I don't think it matters, because even in South Carolina, where we are just finding out they have pretty loose gun laws. Like, listen, I'm pro-gun to protect yourself. Like, you know, single woman living alone with kids. Yeah, I don't have a gun, but I would if I had the time to learn how to use it properly and get a safe and all of that. But in South Carolina, the act of brandishing is specifically covered, and it makes it illegal to present or point a loaded or
100%.
unloaded firearm at another person. Now, this is a felony defense based on whether or not that gun's loaded. So if it's not loaded, it's still considered brandishing and you can still be arrested, but it is a felony offense if the gun is loaded under Justin's law. So I would say that it still wouldn't matter in his defense if he said, oh, well, I pulled out a gun and shoved it in his face, and then he tried to defend himself, so I shot him because he was defending himself against me, and so I'm defending myself against him.
I agree. Oh, you're not going to get me to argue it. I'm just trying to.
I'm just explaining for
show
everyone.
both sides. And the issue for Trey here is Trey is no longer with us. So all of these people that were there, if none of them were there for Trey, and I'm assuming he was alone.
Yeah, they were all from Myrtle Beach, so they all have to be Devan and Gianna's friends.
Yeah, they're all Devan's people, so they're probably going to come up with a similar story to say, oh, Trey was the aggressor. Trey was the guy who was pushing this, and poor Devan was just defending himself. That's what they're going to say.
Yeah, I have another question for you, though, based on what you just said. Let's take another quick break really quick, and then I want to come back and talk about this.
Sounds good.
Okay, so you already know how much I love OneSkin. Their products have become a staple for me because they're not just skincare, they're science. So when I heard they developed something new for hair, I had to try it because I'm really big. I'm huge on taking care of my skin, but also huge on taking care of my hair. And so OneSkin now has OS1 Hair, and it's a lightweight serum that targets the actual dysfunctional aging cells that cause thinning and shedding. The results are honestly incredible. In a clinical study, participants say on average, they see a 40% increase in hair density after 6 months. And in consumer studies, 75% saw new hair growth after just 3 months. Personally, what I love most is how easy it is to use. It's water light, it absorbs quickly, and I can style my hair as usual without it feeling greasy or heavy. That's very important because I blow dry my hair after I wash it, and then I try to avoid having to wash it again for at least 3 to 4 days because it takes forever to blow dry.
I still don't know how I feel about that debate, by the way. You're not washing your hair every day. I know I hear conflicting reports.
I mean, you would strip your hair of the oils if you washed it every day. You can put conditioner in every day, but then once again, I have to blow dry my hair all over again. So anything that doesn't like weigh it down or be, acting greasy in the hair, having to make you wash your hair all over again is great. And OneSkin has always been about science that actually works. Their patented OS1 peptide is proven to target aging at the cellular level. It's what powers their skincare, and now it's helping with hair. So Derek's going to tell you how you can check this out for yourself, and I'd highly suggest you do.
OneSkin is the world's first skin longevity company, and by focusing on the cellular aspects of aging, OneSkin keeps your skin looking and acting younger for longer. For a limited time, you can try OneSkin with 15% off using code CWN at oneskin.co. That's 15% off at oneskin.co with code CWN. After your purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show by letting them know that we sent you. We would greatly appreciate it.
Okay, so you said in the last, right before we took a break, well, these guys, these teenagers who were there, they're all going to take Devan's side and say that Devan was defending himself against Trey. Well, number one, it appears to have been filmed, at least by someone. Somebody's got that. So that's going to be an issue for them if they're not being honest.
Big time.
Now, second of all, my question would be, if you have a creative legal defense, they could say that Trey even showing up there to fight was a threat to Devan. So therefore, Devan came armed because he knew he would have to defend himself. And he could say, well, I didn't know if Trey would be armed. I didn't know if Trey would have a gun, so I brought my gun. And then when Trey started attacking me, I shot him. Would that really be just the act of meeting to have an altercation that you know is going to turn physical, whether it's with a weapon or with fist, you know an altercation is going to turn physical. Would Devan showing up with a gun be sort of explained away by his defense team because he thought he would have to defend himself, and then Trey attacking him, even if it was just a punch to the face, would have been enough for Devan to say, oh, I'm going to shoot you now?
Well, there's two things there. First off, I'm not a lawyer, but the first part of your question is and we don't know the answer, is whether Trey showed up to this location knowing Devan was going to be there.
He did. Yeah, he did.
So Gianna went and met with him so that changes things for me, because you're telling me, or at least I perceived it this way, maybe everyone else didn't. It sounded like you said Gianna went to Trey's house and said, hey, we're going to go somewhere. Let's go down the road. And Trey says, all right, cool. And then when Trey shows up, Gianna surprises him with Devan and his whole crew being there, and Trey wasn't aware that they were going to be there.
So according to Alicia and Jasmine, Gianna led Devan Raper and a carload of other friends into Johnsonville from Myrtle Beach that night.
That's fine.
Now,
which is a crime, which is bad.
Yep. Jasmine said that Trey knew that Devan Raper was en route to the home and that a showdown was planned, but he thought it was going to be a physical fight.
Right.
And Jasmine said, quote, Gianna came first in her car and they followed right behind her. We didn't realize until later that she was part of this and she probably set it up.
Okay.
And then moments later they heard gunshots. Yeah.
That changes things a little bit. But
I think the ambush part is he knew that they were going to fist fight, but she ambushed him because she knew that Trey was armed.
So that goes to your second question, which is, would that negate the possibility that this would be a murder charge and it's more a self-defense thing? If you're asking me, I say no. Why? Because if Trey is under the impression he's going there for a physical altercation and Devan is showing up for a physical altercation, to me, that's not self-defense. First and foremost, mistake number one, you're driving from Myrtle Beach to this location.
Yes, to Johnsonville.
You have plenty of points to retreat or turn around and not go there. You showed up. You were going to participate in the fight. You knew what you were walking into. Now, if Trey pulled out a knife or a gun and then you pulled out your gun to defend yourself, okay. But Trey showed up with just his fists. You drove up from Myrtle Beach with a gun, which shows intentionality. That's not a stand your ground. That's not a self-defense claim. That's knowing what you're doing. That's premeditated. So to me, Devan's got no argument. That's my opinion. And if the other people in the vehicle and Gianna knew he was bringing a gun to a fist fight, they're just as culpable as he is, in my opinion.
Yes. The key elements of self-defense in South Carolina are you have to show, one, you are not the one who initiated or caused the confrontation. 2, you were in actual danger of death or serious bodily harm, or you reasonably believed you were. 3, you had no other reasonable or lawful means of avoiding the danger. Driving 50 miles to get in a fight with somebody is not...
Don't have to be a lawyer to figure that one out.
No.
So can we transition? Because I think for us, at least from what I'm reading here between the lines with you, Devan's got problems. He's got major issues. I think he's got a really uphill battle here to get out of this one. So let's transition to this hand of one is a hand of all, because you have teenagers. I have one on the way. I could see a world, I would hope it would never happen, but I could see a world where Tenley gets in a car with a bunch of her friends and doesn't really know what she's going to, knows there's some type of conflict, but doesn't know it's to this level. If she got charged with the same crime, obviously that would be a problem for me. I like the premise of the law. I had a case many years ago. It was on Breaking Homicide. Cody Joyce, still quote unquote unsolved.
We talked about Cody.
We talked about Cody. Yeah. We covered it years ago.
It was a house. He went to a house party and got beat up and died.
In my opinion, these 4 guys beat him to death. That's my opinion. I went down to Pennsylvania.
I think that's what the evidence shows as well.
Showed up to the AG's office. It was a big deal, right? So for me, those guys were not only there, but they participated in the act. I would have to know for each specific person there what their involvement was. And through digital conversations or physical conversations, I'd have to try to determine what each person individually knew. Did they know there was going to be a fight? Did they know that Devan was in possession of a gun? Were they aware of this previous video showing Devan brandishing the gun and pointing it at Trey? If they were aware of these three different things, I think you have a pretty strong case. Now,
even if they didn't know the shooter would pull the trigger, that is part of the law. It doesn't matter if they knew he would or not. If they knew he had a gun and he was going there to meet with somebody and that he would potentially pull that gun out or brandish it in any way, they didn't have to know that he would actually shoot Trey in order to be still held to the same charges as Devan.
If they knew that Devan was going there to commit a crime, which in this case would have been assault, potentially felony assault, brandishing a gun, threatening someone else with a firearm. If they were even aware of that, to me, they are in the same boat as Devan. And it wouldn't even be Devan saying to them, I'm going to put the gun in his face again. If they were aware of the previous video that showed what he was capable of, that is enough at 17, 16 years old. You should know if he's done it before, he could do it again. Now, to be on the other side of it, if you have John Smith or Jane Smith, who's friends with Joey Smith, who did know what was going on, and they're just tagging along, do I want to see 10 different teenagers who made a bad decision to get in a car to go watch a fight have their lives ruined? No, I don't. I don't want to see that. So it's a case-by-case basis for me. I don't want to see this blanket charge, and I want to see what the details are of each person before I determine. I'm not going to say this is justified across the board for all 10 people. I'm not going to say it's not. I would have to know case by case, each person, whether or not they knew what was going to happen. And that's how I would determine whether I thought they should be charged or not.
So what it kind of looks like to me, because I looked up some other cases where this law has been applied, it looks like this law exists for a good reason. And also to sort of, let people know, hey, if you take part in this, it doesn't matter whether you pulled the trigger. It doesn't matter if you just drove the car, you could be held responsible. However, in cases like this where multiple people have been arrested, especially teenagers, it does look like they do exactly what you just said, that they're going to look at the levels of involvement. Okay, did this person say, no, I'm out, I'm staying in the car, I don't want to have anything to do with this, just bring me home after? They're not going to get a murder charge. If you've got somebody recording, though, you're going to see all the people who were there in that circle surrounding these two young men. Come on, get him, yeah. Maybe Devan pulls out the gun and they start cheering. These people should 100% be held to the same charge as Devan. If you did not interfere to stop what was happening, if you went along with it, if you were cheering it on like some weird gladiator match, I'm sorry, you need to face the consequences. And I know we both have kids that were afraid of this happening, right? Because there's peer pressure and you're in a car, you don't know where you're going. But I think maybe we all have to have conversations with our children that are that age to say, hey, this is this case, Trey Wright, right? And this is what happened to him. And this is what happened to the people who were around this incident happening. And they didn't pull a trigger, they didn't bring a gun, and they're still serving time or they're still on probation and they still have this reputation now and the people know who they are. They became involved because we need to really let our kids know, hey, if you get somewhere you don't want to be, I don't care what time of night it is. I don't care if you think you're going to be in trouble. Call me. I'll come pick you up. I'll get you out of there. And then I'll call the police. There is something in these kids that still should have said, hey, this might not be good. Let me tell someone just in case this poor kid ends up on the wrong side of Devan's gun.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that's not what happened, even though days before a video of Devan pointing a gun at Trey had circulated around Snapchat. Now, there's also going to be people who are going to say, well, why did Trey go there if he just had a gun put in his face by Devan 2 days ago? Why did he go there? Maybe there was a reasonable expectation that he would know Devan had brought a gun. And maybe, I don't know, but it's still legally.
I don't think that would change it.
No, it doesn't change it, but there's going to be people who in their heads, they're like, oh, well, he's a stupid kid walking into this again. Why'd you do that? And it's like, it doesn't matter because you should be able to walk out in the world without worrying you're going to get shot. Now, should you avoid things if you feel like bad stuff might happen? Yeah, but he's 16. What are you going to do?
Yeah, and this is why I would tell Tenley or Peyton, if you can avoid situations like this, do it because you never know how high it's going to escalate. And as far as I'm concerned, like I said, I'm not a lawyer, so I was just looking it up while you were talking. There's Kent Collins Law Firm out of South Carolina, and they specifically talk about hand of one, hand of all in South Carolina. And I thought this was interesting because they're giving you some examples and definitions of what hand of one, hand of all would be, what it would fall under, right? And one thing they say is the mere presence is not enough to find you guilty or charge you with this crime. So if you weren't aware of what was going to happen and you were just tagging along to watch the show, you're probably going to be okay. But here's some examples of what they refer to as accomplice liability. These are things that would stipulate you being charged with a similar crime being committed in front of you. So here are the 3 examples they give. And the third one you're going to find very interesting. The first one, you accompany a co-defendant to rob a house, but you stay in waiting in the car. Even though you did not rob the house personally, you can still be charged with burglary. We kind of
knew the house was going to be robbed. Yeah.
Yep, you knew what was going to happen. The second one is you accompany a co-defendant to rob a convenience store, and during the robbery, your co-defendant shoots and kills the convenience store clerk. You can still be charged with murder. Literally the exact example I gave earlier. Here's the third one, and I'm assuming this was written before this case came up. You and a friend get into a fist fight with another person on the street. You knock them down and you're done. But as you're walking away, your friend chooses to shoot them in the head. Even though you had no intent to kill that person, you did not pull the trigger, and you did not know that they were going to do this, you can still be convicted of murder as well. So this is a little bit more extreme, but depending on your involvement, and I'm talking about these teens at this fight, if they were aware that he had a gun and that he was going to get in this fist fight with this kid, Trey, and that he had pulled a gun on him before, and you were a participant, whether that's just showing up and facilitating the whole thing or even being actively involved, even though you didn't pull the trigger, even though you didn't know he was going to pull the trigger, under this statute, you could be charged. And I think that's what you're looking at here with at least some of these teenagers.
I think, yeah, I don't think all of them, like based on how they were involved. And like I said, if there's a video, it's going to be very clear.
Yep.
Who was involved, what they said, what their part is. But based on how they were involved and if they can prove that or not, I think you're going to have different degrees of charges. But yeah, I think that there's going to be a handful of these, including Gianna, that are charged with
Gianna,
murder.
Definitely Gianna. If you're Devan and I'm John Smith and me and you are texting each other and you're going, hey, you want to roll up with me? I'm about to pull a gun on this kid again and tell him what's up. That to me acknowledging your text message and saying, yeah, I'm down to go. To me, I'm charging you. If you told me your intent, even if it was just to go there and brandish the gun and scare him, and he ends up shooting him, you're as culpable as the shooter, in my opinion. But we want to hear your opinion. A lot of parents out there, a lot of people who I hope never experience anything like this. But I do think that this case is bigger than just this case. As I said earlier, cases like this can develop precedent for future cases. They can set this table for a case that occurs in California. So this is important. This is something we all want to be aware of because a lot of us have kids. And whether your kid's going to be the primary aggressor or just someone watching on the sidelines, it could change their life forever. It could impact them and your family. So you might be saying, oh, I'm not from South Carolina. I don't know this case. I don't really care about it. It's important because it could affect you or someone you know. So weigh in down in the comments below. Let us know what you think about this case. I will give a little bit of a disclosure here. We're recording this on Monday, September 1st.
September 1st.
So this is going to be coming out the Wednesday after CrimeCon, which would be, I can pull it up here real quick. That's going to be, my dates are off here. It's going to be 9/10 when this comes out. So 9 days from now, a lot can change. So we do apologize if the information is slightly outdated. There might be newer developments, but we are recording this prior to going to CrimeCon. We didn't want to miss an episode, but if there's a major update.
I don't know if a lot of developments are going to come out because this happened in August. And I think because there's minors involved, they're probably keeping a lot of things.
You're not wrong. I'm just giving that disclaimer because you know it's going to come out. And if there's one thing that comes out, I don't want this episode to be not worth watching or listening to. Yeah, this was
actually June 24th. So we're months away. Yeah.
If something major comes out while we're gone or even after we're back, we'll be sure to update it because I can tell you my kids will have bigger problems than law enforcement if they ever do something like this. But I'm going to be aware of what's going on here because it could affect not only cases in South Carolina, but cases in Rhode Island. So I want to know about it. Any final words from you?
No, we're obviously sending our thoughts to Trey's family.
Yes, of course.
Really tragic, whole life ahead of him, 16 years old, seemed like just a really jovial, kind of nice, happy kid who met a girl he really liked, felt like she was out of his league, felt, self-conscious about that, but it was really a new relationship. It's not like he knew this person for a long time. I don't think he really knew what he was getting into with Gianna and Devan and the Myrtle Beach crew. So really unfortunate.
And I don't want this to sound like victim blaming at all, but I'm always a straight shooter. Call it how I see it. Learn from it. This doesn't only go for teenagers. It goes for adults. I say it all the time. I'm someone who carries a lot, but when I find myself in a situation and you can have hubris take over where someone challenges you or says something you don't like, it's not worth it. It's not worth it because in the end, you don't know where that person's head's at. And all it takes is for you to think it's just a very simple argument at a drugstore or a convenience store or in a parking lot. And all of a sudden, that person who's been having a bad week and is looking for someone to take it out on pulls out a gun and changes your life and the life of everybody you care about. So I think in hindsight, I think Trey and I think a lot of cases that are like this, if they had the chance to do it over again and to just stay home because it's not worth it, they would. I think they'd rather be here. So we can all learn from it, regardless of what the outcome is in this case. At the end of the day, yes, tensions can be high, but the ramifications from your decision-making can be something that you can't come back from, whether you're 16 or 65. So take the high road, be the bigger person. In the moment, it may sting a little bit, but I'd rather you be here. That's my final take on it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's hard because kids don't have, like you said, they don't have their brain's not fully developed. They're not thinking everything through. And it's hard because I can always say to my son, like, who's 14 now, this drama that you got going on with your friend groups, it's not worth it. Like, it's so much better to just be alone. It's their whole world. And as an adult, I'm like, man, friends to me are just kind of an energy.
Come and go, man.
And I don't have a lot of friends from when I was in school, middle school, elementary school. And it's like, I like to be with myself, my family, a very close circle of close friends. But I want to say, like, hey, it's not that important. But he looks at me like, what are you this is everything.
Exactly.
I'm like, make new friends. And he's like, make new friends at 14? Like, that's old, because a lot of these kids have been friends since they were little. So I get it, but at the same time, I just want to so badly be able to, like, communicate into their brains, like, trust me, in 10 years, none of this will matter. This is not important. It seems the most important thing right now, but it's not. So, yeah, it's hard. It's hard. Just try to teach your kids the right thing,
Yeah, absolutely.
Hang
It's
out
all
with
we
the
can
right
do.
people. Yeah.
Everyone monitor their own family and friends, and if everyone does that, we'll be in a better world. That's for sure. Guys, let us know what you think. Weigh in down in the comments below. We'll be back later this week with Christian Grids Part 2. The first part was more of an exposition kind of episode where we broke down all the facts of the case. Now we're going to get into where we go from here. Who's telling the truth? Who's lying?
Yeah, we're digging deeper.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see you later this week. Until then, everyone stay safe out there. Have a good night.
Bye.